So here I was, minding my own business, taking my sweet time to do an exorbitantly long review video of the new Lisa Aldrich collection when Pat McGrath Labs decided to announce their holiday collection, basically forcing me to gather an emergency meeting to discuss the new release. So gather around, children, my children, we're going to talk about the Luminous Legends collection that is about to be released about a week from now for holiday 2024. I'm going to be doing my makeup while chatting. I will try my best not to forget to show you what I'm using here and there, especially for like the color cosmetics. I am going to be using some of my favorite things from last year's holiday collection. So I'm going to use Starstruck Splendor and I'm going to use Bronze Ecstasy, which were my two favorite like eyeshadow items from last year's collection. And also like blushes, bronzers, lipstick. Basically most of it is going to be from Pat. My base I'm not going to mention because I essentially use the same kind of things that you've already seen for the past few months. So let's just jump into discussing the collection. So the collection contains two like lip product kits, one with little minis, I want to say, of her Matte Trance, not new shades by the way, just like classic Pat shades from the Matte Trance collection, nothing new there. I think same for the lip glosses. I want to say there was a kit with like two lip glosses. I'm not sure there will be multiple of those or something, but I doubt they're new shades. And besides that, we are not really getting any face products this year. There is no gorgeous baked highlighter, which has been something pretty standard for the past couple of years of releases. So unfortunately, we are not getting a baked highlighter. We got a baked highlighter with the Valentine's Day collection, but we're not getting one now. And we're getting a variety of eyeshadow products. There's going to be a Mega. The Mega is once again going to be in a different format because it's going to be 15 eyeshadows, so 3x5. There are going to be quints again, two of them, and there are going to be mini, duos of what appears to also be her quint format. Like, I'm pretty sure it's her quint format because the packaging looks exactly the same. So my first reaction to when I saw the collection, and I think collectively that's a little bit the feeling that I'm gathering from those of you whom I've chatted with on Instagram, is that the whole collection just feels like one huge deja vu. But I think we've been having that feeling for a while now, that everything she's been releasing for the past year or so is like a deja vu of things we've already seen. Now there's something to be said about the fact that if you've been collecting her collecting is the wrong word. I hate the word collecting because it implies you're not using things, you're just like gathering them somewhere in a drawer to pile dust on. No, we have been buying Pat McGrath Labs for a while now, so at some point we are going to reach a point where we have it all, we've seen it all, and there's nothing she can do in terms of color to really surprise us. Of course, here and there she can do something a bit more unique, but I don't think any of us should count on a Mothership's 1 through 3 kind of moment anymore. That's not going to happen. I think those are, glory days of the past, gone, done, that's it, moving on. Something that personally I have started to see a little bit differently, and I wanted to share it just in case it helps you to see the product releases a little bit differently and the whole brand in a different light, is that there's been rumors that Pat McGrath isn't really deeply involved in the making of her products anymore. As in, I think she was still involved in last year's holiday collection that had her signature all over it. I feel like the holiday collection was really good, and I watched a video where she named a lot of the eyeshadows by name, which made me think that she was very much involved in the creation of that collection. Now, since the beginning of the year though, I've had the feeling that someone else has been in the steering wheel, and they're not quite the creative mastermind that Miss Pat McGrath is, because Miss Pat McGrath is basically busy being back on the runway creating masterpieces there. Case on point, her Maison Margiela show was show-stopping, groundbreaking, and once again she reinvented herself as a makeup artist. However, because of that switch in, I feel like, creative direction, I've almost started to see the brand as like a different, not a different brand, but let's say when a big company releases like a little like daughter company, I have the feeling that this past year we've been seeing, the Pat McGrath daughter brand. You know, the umbrella is the same. Like, imagine something like Anastasia Beverly Hills and the Norvina brand. I'm getting the feeling we're getting the Norvina brand this past year, which also makes me feel a little bit differently about the brand, because I was there, first line, waiting for all the new releases with excitement and devotion and everything, when I knew Pat was making the products and I knew what I was getting. But since now I suspect someone else is doing the creative direction, I feel like, well, it's not really Pat, so I can't care in the same way. So my first reaction when I saw the collection was, it looks okay. It's okay. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing special. It just looks okay. Another general thing I want to say about this collection is it's called Luminous Legends, and it's inspired by a bunch of, you know, legendary celebrities that Pat McGrath admires. And I want to stress, please don't get hung up on any specific celebrity she has named in these inspo videos, because the celebrities that she's mentioned range from Simone Biles to I don't know, Elizabeth Taylor and David Bowie. So you cannot get stuck on one specific celebrity and think that this one specific celebrity inspired the collection. No, there's like a variety of people that have been an inspiration for this collection to her or whoever is doing the creative directing. So you cannot get hung up on specific people and expect like specific color stories or inspiration. It's just, you know, she's chosen all these people to be her inspiration. Maybe like one color in one of the palettes is an inspiration from this person. But yeah, so I wanted to make that clear because I think it's really important. I think the biggest thing that is happening with this collection, because I'm not sure that a lot of people picked up on it, but the Mega Mothership this year, I immediately glanced on the announcement post to see whether they're mentioning any sort of like shade names, because we know that she's been regurgitating shades for the past few years, and like since the beginning of the brand she's been regurgitating certain shades. So we know that repeats are a possibility and an inevitability. So I thought, let me take a quick glance to see if I recognize something. To be fair, I've stopped memorizing the names of her eyeshadows. So for example, my knowledge of the names of her Quint eyeshadows is extremely minimal. I know the names of very little of those. However, there is one that I immediately recognized, which is the shade Lunar Luxury. Lunar Luxury is the spectacular taupe silver that was in the first Quint. Yes, in the first Quint that was released for Holiday 2022, I want to say. It is a pretty glorious eyeshadow, and because it's a pretty glorious eyeshadow, I know the name of it. So I immediately spotted it between the names of the eyeshadows in the Mega palette. At first I didn't really think much of it, but then I thought, let me see if like just by doing a very quick cross-check, I can find other shades from Quints that are now being featured in that Mega Mothership. And I was able to also find that one of the shades we're actually going to use today, this one here, shade Honey Nectar from the Bronze Ecstasy Quint, is also present in that Mega Mothership. I'm going to take Nude Honey from Pat McGrath Labs. So I think the big thing that I think is going on here is that of the whole collection of all the eyeshadows, so we're talking about 15 Mega plus 2 Quints, 10, 25 plus 3 duos, 6, 31, correct me if I'm wrong, 30, from the 31 eyeshadows that are being released, everything, my suspicion is 99.9%, everything is going to be in the Quint formula. So the biggest difference we're seeing this year is that her Mega Mothership this year is not going to be in regular eyeshadow formula, it is going to be in the Quint formula, which is exciting because it means that all the eyeshadows are going to be made in Italy, because the Quint formula is also based off of the lab in Italy, which makes her Blitz Astro shades, or at least I suspect it's the same lab, but of course I can't be sure. But those are definitely made in Italy, which means the Mega Mothership this year is likely made in Italy. But it also means that literally all the eyeshadows in this collection are going to be in the Quint formula. So if you don't like that formula, you're not going to like any of the eyeshadows that are featured in this collection. There's no variety in the types of eyeshadows you're getting. They're all the same formula. I'm now going to dip into the Starstruck Splendor palette for my blush. I'm going to take this shade here, which is Nymphet. I fell in love with this blush last year when I tried it in this palette. I didn't have it as a single yet. So I think that's really important to keep in mind. The second thing is, if you go through the shade names of the duos, you will notice that there is a duo that she calls Blitz Astral, and it contains, I don't know, a gold and a black, and they're called a Blitz and an Astral. Do not be fooled. Just because she's calling things Blitz and Astral now does not mean they're baked. And I can guarantee you 99.99% that these two eyeshadows are also not baked. They are pretty much going to be her Queen formula. Everything's going to be in that formula, just to reiterate if it was not clear before. That is, of course, a speculation. I can't confirm that unless I've gotten the palette. But honestly, if two of the shades from the Mega Mothership are in that formula, why would the rest be in a different formula? So that's something to keep in mind. And do not be fooled by the namings of the eyeshadows. The two that she names Blitz and Astral are not Blitz and Astral. I mean, she can name them whatever she wants, obviously, her choice. But they're not going to be the baked goodness that we are used to seeing with Blitz and Astral shades. So please keep that in mind. I'm going to highlight using one of my favorite holiday baked highlighters from her. This is the shade Venusian Nude. So we're not really getting a highlighter like this year. Just to reiterate again. I'm sorry, I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but I just want to make a few things very clear about this collection. I think the Mega Mothership is going to probably be a really good palette if it's in the Queen formula, if you happen to enjoy that formula, because the mattes in those Queens are really beautiful. They're like this gorgeous green cream to matte formula, and the metallics are quite impactful, they're quite sparkly, they're quite flaky, and at least from the initial images she's releasing, and let's be honest, those are very filtered and not exactly trustworthy, but it seems like a lot of the shades in the Mega Mothership palette are going to be that gorgeous, you know, quaint, sparkly metallic formula. So if you're at all into these, you're probably going to really like the Mega. In terms of colors, are any of these going to be super unique? No. Two of them are even going to be repeats in your collection, and the other shades are going to be lovely, but a lot of them are not going to be anything new, unique, groundbreaking, or special. But like I said, if you have not collected these palettes for years, this Mega might be fantastic for you, because you're getting beautiful shades in a variety of different tones in a glorious formula. I'm going to quickly set the powders on my face with a bit of Fix Plus. Okay, for the eye look, I'm first going to dip into the Mega Mothership palette, and I'm going to take this lighter mauve type shade to apply through my crease. So what am I buying from this collection? At first I was, you know, I had this feeling that I'm a little bit, you know, lukewarm. Well, I'm still lukewarm. I think overall my feeling for this collection is I'm pretty lukewarm about it. It's not something that I have not seen before. It all feels like one big deja vu dream. But I'm also, you know, able to acknowledge that I've been buying Pat McGrath products for such a long time that, of course, very little will truly be unique in my collection. Very little will truly be surprising to me. Something that I forgot to mention, so let's backtrack a little bit before I tell you what I'm planning on purchasing. I think a lot of you were expecting that a Mothership will be announced with the holiday collection too. Now, while I do still think that it's possible we're getting a Mothership, you know, as a fall/winter release, I personally did not expect that there's going to be a Mothership announced with the holiday collection, because Motherships are usually, unless there's some sort of like a limited edition packaging, Motherships are usually permanent releases, and the holiday collection is a limited release, so I don't think she was going to, you know, mix apples and pears here. So I was not shocked, surprised, and disappointed by the fact that a Mothership has not been announced. I think if a Mothership is still coming this year, it's going to be somewhat later in the year and more towards like Christmas and New Year, you know, as a completely separate thing. I did not expect them to be released together. Now I'm going to go back into the beautiful Bronze Ecstasy Quint, and I'm going to dip into this shade here. This is more of like a neutral taupey brown, and I'm going to put that also through my crease and a bit more in the outer corners of the eyes. And a lot of you have been asking if I think that the Mothership is coming, what's going on, why is there no Mothership? You guys, I know as much as you do, and I don't have a crystal ball. I don't really know what's going on here. I will say this, prior to Divine Rose 2, her palettes were not being released in the summer. They were released whenever. So don't get hung up on a specific time of the year when she usually releases her Motherships to base your you know, worries on. Just like wait it out and see what happens. If she doesn't release a Mothership this year, that will just reaffirm my suspicion that Pat is not involved or has not been involved hands-on this year, because I do think that the Motherships are still something that Pat is heavily involved in. And just as a completely different like side note thing, because I really wanted to mention it, when I was in Dublin at the airport, there was a Pat McGrath Labs display. Lucky bastards. But they had Mothership 11 on display, so Sunlit Seduction, the one that I didn't buy, and I was able to swatch it, and let me tell you, swatching it did not make me desire the palette more. I'm going to take a little bit of NYX Glitter Glue. I swatched it and I just felt so validated in my choice not to buy it. The shades are beautiful, don't get me wrong. Great quality, you know. The sparkly shades, the special shades, Blitz Astros, didn't do anything for me. I didn't think they were very special. The rest of the shades were okay. Some of the mattes were too pink for my taste. So honestly, everything that I suspected about this palette was true also in real life. I did not grow to desire this palette based on swatching it in real life. So in terms of Mothership palette, I don't know if one is coming this year, because like I said, I don't know that the sub-brand of Pat McGrath Labs is doing Motherships, because if Mother really is the one who is involved in making them and she's off hands this year, no new Mothership is coming. And if one is coming, it's going to be separate from the holiday release. I am going to take a little shader brush. I'm going to go into this beautiful like warm brown champagne shade from the Starstruck Splendor palette, and I'm going to apply this all over my lids. I think this is a really pretty shade. I honestly really loved the holiday collection last year, which is why I bought a bunch of it. I bought Starstruck Splendor and I also bought all of the queens last year, and I truly enjoy all of them. I use certain shades in some of the queens, like Bronze Ecstasy and Sunset Romance are the ones that I use in their entirety. I love all the shades. For the other three queens, there are specific shades that I like and others that I use a bit less often. But overall, I thought that was a beautiful release. So the queens this year, there is a queen with purples, not for me. I don't really know that I care much for purples at all. And there is a quint with like a gold, a bronze and a like rosy shade that I'm slightly interested in. That one is a question mark, and I think right now I'm almost entirely certain that I will purchase the Mega Mothership palette, because I love the queen formula. I'm very curious if we truly are talking about a Mega with only the queen formula, because that's what the all the clues suggest. Now I'm going to go back, by the way, into Bronze Ecstasy, and I'm going to take a little bit of this gorgeous shade here, the shade Honey Nectar, to apply over top of this shade we used from Starstruck Splendor. In fact, I think I'm just going to use my fingers for Honey Nectar, because look how beautiful these are. Now, unfortunately, I know from Bia, for example, that this formula on oily eyelids creases quite a bit. I've had I don't really have creasing experience with these eyeshadows. With some of these specific textures in some of these queens, like some of the more, like there is not a eyeshadow in here, in this queen for example, that creases on me. But let me show you one where I wouldn't call it creasing, I would call it cracking. So let's look at this one, for example. This is one of the Star Wars queens. This shade here in the middle swatches beautifully. It just looks absolutely spectacular when you swatch it on your finger. When you put it on your lid, I find that these types of textures are very difficult to transfer from whatever tool you're using onto your lids, because they're so incredibly emollient, and because of that they also tend to crack. They don't crease, they don't gather in my fine lines, they crack there. So it's a very weird formula, and that is the only formula from these queens that I really dislike. But none of the eyeshadows, for example, that were in this collection, the holiday collection from last year, was in that formula. I have not had issues with any of those eyeshadows creasing on me. I'm definitely going to be purchasing the Mega. That one, like more neutral quint, is still a question mark. I'm going to pop a little bit of the brown taupe matte on my lower lashes. And that is pretty much all for this collection. I'm sure you're probably quite surprised why I'm not buying the duo with the green shade. Honestly, guys, it looks so incredibly similar to Citrine Envy from Celestial Odyssey that I'm just not entirely sure why I would need it, but I will think about this one. The other thing that surprised me, so overall the prices from everything in the collection is pretty standard. The queens are 35 euros, the Mega Mothership is going to be 70 euros. The one that like took me by surprise was the little duos. They're going to be 25 euros, which I find a little exorbitant for two eyeshadows that are in a nice formula but not super special formula. I was expecting these to be priced a little under the 20 euro mark, so I'm very surprised that they are 25 euros, because the 5 pan is 35, only 10 euros more. So I'm not really quite sure what's going on here. I find it a little exorbitant to charge this much for a little duo. So that's the only thing that's sort of like stopping me from saying yes to the duo with the green shades. I just think it's a little bit too expensive. Now, speaking of green, I'm going to go back into Starstruck Splendor, and I'm going to take one of my favorite shades from this palette, which is this beautiful like cooler toned green. I really like this eyeshadow, and that's going to go in my inner corner as my inner corner green pulp. I think it sort of fits quite nicely with my shirt, which has a somewhat similar vibe. So that's going to be my harvest for the collection. It is also very likely I'm going to order it with the express shipping, because I know that a lot of you will be curious what this palette feels like, looks like, and would like to hear my thoughts. And for once this year I don't mind to splurge a little bit on Pat McGrath Labs, because I haven't really bought that much from the brand this year. I mean, they haven't really released all that much, but I also haven't really been tempted to buy much of what they have actually released. So I think I've covered pretty much everything that I wanted to discuss. This is going to be a wrap on this Luminous Legends collection reaction sort of video. In case you were curious, I am wearing Nude Nocturne from Pat on my lips. This is in fact my favorite, one of my favorite items I have purchased this year, and definitely so far my favorite item I have purchased from Pat McGrath Labs. Now, I have not bought that much, but from what I bought, this has been my favorite. This is an absolutely fabulous lipstick, both in terms of color and formula. So, I'm very curious what you guys are planning on buying from this collection, if you're planning on buying anything at all. We've already exchanged quite a bit of thoughts with a lot of you on Instagram, but if you feel like sharing something extra, please do let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Like I said, for me, 100% the Mega Mothership, question mark on one of the queens, and the duo with the greens. I will probably decide last minute spontaneously. So if I'm not mistaken, the collection releases 27th of September, which is going to be, I want to say, next Thursday. Let me just confirm to make sure. No, that is next Friday, so exactly in a week from now the collection is releasing. Like I said, I will order it with express shipping. I will either way be away the first few days of the week afterwards, because that's going to be my little trip to Paris for work. But I am assuming that by the time I'm back from Paris, the package will be here and we can start discussing it ASAP. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!